Insert bumper music here. Any more with our police states and our main chats with us three lads here, the Three Musketeers, if you will. I'm a little nervous. I'm a little apprehensive. I'm a little, reluctant to play music of any kind because yesterday I did a little thing by myself, boys. A little, I don't know, it's like smoke weed every day, I think is what I titled it. And I was playing music while I was doing a break. I typed in the words free house music. Site popped up. It was house music. I started playing it. I played one complete house song, nice little catchy little tune they did. It got me. They monetized the video because of that. And so it's just a lesson to anyone, Mad Dodge Productions, if you listen in the future, anyone that's doing their own thing, be very, very careful because at that time I wasn't being careful. I had not checked that. How y'all doing? Binary Surfer, Princess Buttercup, Matt Barkley, Jensen, Quinn, of course, Lord Quinn, good to see you. Anybody else out there right now? If I missed you, I'm sorry. Memes of Destruction, can't miss you. Good to see you. Glad that you're here. So before I go off onto some kind of tangent that has nothing to do with any topic that we covered today, I just want to say very briefly, looks like Prankster Locke is not going to show up today. Has some personal issues. I don't know what they are, so we're not going to mock them right now. If we do, we will do later. Yeah, yes. If we find out later that it was something very silly, of course, we will do later. As Comments this guy says, I don't know, boys. You know what I want to talk about here in a minute. But instead of just jumping into that, what's up, gentlemen? Anything on y'all's minds? What's been going on the last few days? Seems like it's been a while since the Musketeers have actually been together and ready for combat, if you will. So what's
at least been 6 days, 7 days, hasn't it? About Monday, isn't it? Really?
Yeah.
Since about Monday, because on Friday we obviously did that show that will never be mentioned ever again, and it never happened. But I
enjoyed it. I loved it. I wish I felt better that day because I know if I would have been there to blow a little more wind in the sails, it probably would have went a little bit better. But I was only hitting on like 3 out of 8 cylinders. I was spark knocking bad.
I know. No, it's just not good for my image. You know, I'm a common sense guy. I'm not a conspiracy theory guy. I mean, I've got shit tons of conspiracy theories, and I love most of them.
No, well, that makes sense. So that said, it would be, as we were talking, it will work out on other channels with you there. Because I think that was a lot of it. You were thinking, that was on your mind. This is my channel. People are going to come and they're going to hear me talking about the Brexit, and they're going to hear me talking about EU getting an army together. You're going to hear me talking about exposing pedophilia and stuff like that. And then this here.
It was such a good stream that all well and good come in and then looked and then just went, nah, I'm off.
To be fair, common sense, you've already ruined your reputation by doing one BNN, mate. So you fucked yourself already.
It didn't help, that's for sure.
No.
I enjoyed doing that. It was actually really good.
It was very good. And I think Mr. Quinn has a skill that he really needs to expose a bit more often. So I'm going to nab him back and reuse my original idea for now on, if you don't mind.
You can have the idea. I'm more than happy. I'm more than happy to come on sometime during a Wednesday when I'm not at college.
Yeah, exactly. I want you to come on and then basically say, what was all this shit?
Yeah, Quinn's geared up for Wednesday. I know that to be a fact. He's ready to rock and roll. It's going to be a good time. This is MOZ. I just want to remind everybody that you can't leave it up to the voice of one. High voice I see out there. And Moz and Magic Bollocks. Yeah, I know a few of others of you out there have done your diligence and done a meme or two, but you can't leave it to these same 3 every time to make cool memes of the ogre. So I just want to encourage you all to go out there. And for example, I don't think I have downloaded it yet, but Bollocks just did a wonderful new one with me appearing to prepare to swallow a gigantic rainbow-colored dildo.
It was beautiful.
Yeah, it was kind of pretty. The dildo was kind of pretty. In fact, the meme was not bad. So anyway, get in there, make some memes. I'm sure that Quinn's out there somewhere, probably hearing my voice. I'm not really paying much attention to the chat right now. And I'm not sorry for that. I'm just saying that's a fact. And, he'll give you a link to that. Swing on by there and make some memes of the ogre. I have the sense of humor that's good for it. And remember that I ask for it. And then, if you want to meme the boys here with me, you can. But also remember that when you go to photoshopping penis and whatnot in people's faces, you should know that they're okay with it first. I'm not a social justice warrior. I just believe in good taste, good form, boys. Is that what we could call it? Good form. And in the old days, you'd have to know that someone was okay with that kind of thing before you just went doing it, because some folks, they don't find the humor in it as your beloved ogre does. So yes, I think good form is what we agreed on. So I don't know, boys. What else? What's up?
Before Magic Bollocks continues, I just wanted to ask a quick question. Can we have a Binary Surfer on so he can give us the download of what happened with Sargon and him being attacked by Antifa? And
he can come on right now. I'm sending him a link right now.
I would like him to. Yes, I'd like.
Let's see. I know I can get a hold of him in Discord. I'm going to send this on. So look for a link right now if you care to come on. Binary is always welcome. He's got that very soft, low-keyed British accent that says,
he's got the MI5. He's got that MI5 feel about him.
Inquisitor, like he would pull your toenails out with that same calm, like, I'll give you a cup of tea after I pull your toenails out, mate. And that's.
I'll look after you after I chop your leg.
All right, so let's see if I can find this gentleman. I know he's in here somewhere.
I'm sure you two know him better than you're letting on.
No, because he's been around for a long time. Oh, there's Binary Surfer. Yeah. So look at your messages there, Surfer, if you care to come on. There's a link there in your personal messages. And we're not going to, and look, just relax, everybody. If you don't get a link today, it's just the way it is. It's us lot today. Common Sense Guy has a reason. We're not butt hurt, but I want to know that Prankster has got some problems today, because anyway, I'm sure he does too, by the way. He's in school, and could be any number of things. I know he's been very busy, but I also know he got a new girlfriend. So there, look, I filibustered just perfect. What's up, Binary Surfer? What do you got to tell us about?
Oh,
see, he's communicating in code at the moment.
Binary Surfer.
There we go. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Go ahead, mate. Tell us what's happening in Sargon's world.
So Sargon had an event at King's College London that Antifa tried to storm, in inverted commas, with less than a dozen people. They managed to get into the room before they got the shit kicked out of them by the audience.
Oh, what a shame.
It's quite funny. Yeah, one of them got clocked soundly in the face, started crying, and then all you can see from the footage, the rest of them running away, more or less. except for one guy in the red shirt who just sort of walks away slowly.
So a dozen or so of them try to storm the building. They actually do storm the building, quote unquote, and get into the room. Were you there, or you just saw the?
No, I just seen the footage on Twitter a few minutes ago, linked from I think Orwell and Good, actually, of all people.
Oh, that's excellent. Well, the funny thing is,
always gets the stories.
Yeah, he gets some good ones. It's just funny that I thought his name wasn't supposed to be uttered on Twitter, and here he is making an appearance through the back door, as it were.
Everybody's getting banned off of fucking Twitter now, aren't they? Everybody, every right wing or conservative, slightly left of Mao is gone. Right of Mao is gone.
It's a little disturbing to me. Now go on, Barney.
I don't know if it's whether the automated algorithms they've built are biased or the people are biased, but it amounts to the same thing.
Oh no! I did a video on this. The EU have actually decided to clean up fake news on social, and they're actually going to ratify it in the next couple of months. They're doing it.
Yeah, their definition of fake news, though, isn't it? Slightly different to the rest of ours. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
See, this only works to a point, though. You reach a point with it, and it starts to boil over, as the elections in Italy showed. Have you seen the results on those?
Yes,
I have. I was tweeting about it last night.
Yeah,
yeah. This is what everyone has been saying for a while with the French elections. Oh, Le Pen only got 32% of the vote. only a known and disliked political family, it's like the Clintons of France, only got 34% of the vote. They keep dodging these bullets and they keep claiming no shots have been fired. So it's not the same thing, guys.
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
Sure.
I mean, anti-establishment party that's was at 32%, and then you have of centre-right parties at 34.8%, and you're just like, so Europe, when are you going to realise that you may have an immigration problem and you might need to sort this out?
Yeah. But the thing is, they also play on the fact as well that most European countries end up having coalitions because of their electoral systems. Like when Geert Wilders' party came second last year or third in the Netherlands elections, and they claimed that just proof that that populism isn't catching on Europe. Was no, he his vote base grew, it more than doubled, and he's jumped several places in the polling states. It's just that the fact that he didn't win, none of them won. They all had to form a fucking coalition again.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. To put it in electoral terms that we get in the UK, it's the equivalent of the Greens going from 1 MP to 20 MPs.
Now that is a frightening thought.
Well,
I don't know, I don't know what analogy I can give, Ogre. I don't know of a US political party that's relevant but small.
We don't really have any. We have some that get publicity and are small, but that are relevant and small. I don't know. Couldn't say Green Party.
I was going to say you've got your own version of Greens.
Yeah, we have the Green Party. We have Libertarian Party, but you know, last time, if you remember, it was now I'm gonna forget his damn name. You know, it was can't remember Aleppo, and now I can't remember his name. Stein. Oh, what was his tag? Anyway, he was the Libertarian, and Jill Stein. And then this time, running for it, supposedly 2020, one of the front runners of the Libertarian Party is Adam Kokesh. So to make a long story short, we have this monster that's been the Democratic Party for time immemorial here in the United States and has been the Whigs and has transmogrified into the Republicans, and that's it. They are this giant machine that will smash anything that comes up under it completely. So I wish we did, though, because I do know that Rand Paul would have been an excellent president. We could use some leadership that came from a different angle just to see what would happen, because we don't know.
Political parties
what's happening in Europe.
Go on.
I was going to say, I think that's what's happening in Europe at this moment in time. I mean, like as Binary was saying, you've got people like the Pen that are getting traction to the point where they had to bring somebody out called Macron, who was backed by bankers and literally has no political experience whatsoever, but somehow presidency. And yes, I'm going into conspiracy theory guy, but that's just weird to me. That's just fucking weird to me on that. I don't see how that can come out of the blue and just win completely.
If you want a really easy answer to that question, it's because he is an establishment candidate, but he isn't seen as one. They learned from Clinton in the US, where the population went, "Fuck you, we don't want an establishment candidate." They went, "Okay, well, fine, we'll give you someone you don't really know, so you don't think they're part of the establishment."
Yeah, true.
Which, and it's the same thing. I mean, you're just getting the other side of the coin. We haven't had anything real here, in my opinion, because you said conspiracy, so I'm going to follow through on that and say, a lot of the things that people say are conspiracy theories are conspiracy fact. And let's remember what the definition is. I think we all know it's where two or more people get together and they plot to do something. That's a conspiracy. A theory is an idea about what those people are doing without actual, grounded proof. So we are running headlong into a world where the conspiracy theories, the conspirators are at the helm, and there is no room for anyone else. I mean, it's getting brushed under the rug. Our last real president, anyway, before I go off, because I just realized I was about to go off on a 10-minute tangent, and there's not time here with our guest. Are just out of the wild blue guest also, I might say. But JFK was probably our last real president. And look what happened to him. Ronald Reagan was so. I've been on a kick and watching a lot of old Ronald Reagan stuff, but he was just as crazy as Trump. He would go from doing great stuff and great policies and excellent eruditions, just wonderful explanations of what he's going to do and where he wants to steer the country. He'd go from that to like, but I don't care about your rights. You shouldn't be able to smoke marijuana. I'll throw you in prison forever. And then you got Trump over here same way. It's like he's got this crazed little elf-looking fucker over here doing the same thing with some insane war on drugs, which means war on your friends and family, by the way, and you probably. And then now going to this, he's going to be a gun grabber now. Trump, what? Because I always hear it. It's true. If Obama would have said that, if Trump would have said that, what Obama said, he'd be in a lot of trouble. I'm going to tell you what, folks. If Obama would have said what Trump said in an open meeting with Feinstein sitting right next to him, talking about, no, it's okay, Vice President Biden, what you're talking about is all right, but what would be better is if we skipped due process, took people's weapons, and then had due process. It can't be so look, was that enough? We are living in a conspiracy theory where, yes, they slipped me the Mickey, boys. They slipped me the Mickey, and I mean that in the American way. Like they put something in your drink that made you a little drunk. Trump fucking got me. And if he doesn't back off of some of the shit that he's doing here real quick, I'll never vote for the son of a bitch again. We ain't got no kings here.
I think you're laboring under a misapprehension, as are a lot of Americans, Ogre, that Trump is somehow a Republican. He's not.
He's not.
He's a Democratic donor for the last 40 years. He's a Democrat in everything but name. Now, and that's ironically why he might be, I mean, set aside whether you think it's a good thing or not, he might be the only president for the last 50 years who could bridge the divide, because the Republicans will go with him because they're his man, they're their man. My phrasing is getting screwed up. He's their man.
He's their man. Yeah, you got it. Go ahead.
To some degree, so they won't completely stab him in the back on guns. And equally, that brings the NRA at least halfway along. Then the Democrats can't oppose him on an issue that they've been hammering for 40 years. So he might be the only person that's actually capable of getting gun reform through. So put it to one side where you think it's a good idea, but the irony is that a Republican president who isn't a Republican president, who's universally disliked by both sides, who's really a Democrat, might be the only one who could actually enact gun reform.
Lord have mercy.
Yeah, but that's the same thing as in Europe. I'm not the gun issue and everything else like that. But this whole process of Angela Merkel and everything else like that, she's literally held on to fucking power. And you've got Italy that's now just come across and basically just said, well, no, we don't want immigrants in anymore. You've got the EU that's now coming out saying that if the Eastern Bloc doesn't actually take in migrants, i.e. Hungary and Czech Republic, if they don't take in any migrants, then we're going to cut your subsidies. We're going to stop the EU from paying you any money. So you're not going to get any money to be able to do what you're supposed to do.
They've threatened that before. They've threatened that 3 years running. And every year the Visegrad Four have turned around and said, essentially, go for it. It's not as bad as having the migrants. Literally in those words twice.
Yep, I understand that. I'm with you. But this time it's slightly different to the point of they've actually passed it through the budget. That's actually how's it last week they passed it through the budget last week, where they're actually being able to put that through as a legislation. So they're actually going to thinking of doing it because they're going to try and cut money back, because obviously we're leaving, or supposedly because we're leaving, we're taking our money with us. So they're looking for points of being able to find some money to fill that void. So they're going to use that bit at this moment in time, but it's going to fall back on them, because Hungary have got elections this year, and so has Czech Republic. It's not going to go well for them if they're going to be.
One of the V4 is going to leave. That much is almost a certainty at this point. Just a question of how long it takes.
Oh yeah,
exactly.
Because the rate we're going at the moment, I'm pretty certain that whether they intend to or not, I think March 29th next year we will be leaving regardless, because I can't see us getting the so-called deal with them. I think we're going to end up what's called having a hard Brexit, whether they intend to or not.
I think they were always going to. I think that the EU right now is a wounded animal lashing out. It's trying desperately to save itself, and all it's doing by doing that is tearing the wound further open.
Did anybody see that sorry, Common Sense. Did anybody see that Guy for Stats tweet that he put out? Was it either today or yesterday after the results in Italy came through, which was basically saying that if you want an open society and reject the vile ideology of nationalism, and he's basically putting out like a call to arms for all the fucking commies out there, which is. Yeah. And does he really think he's going to, fool anybody with that shit?
He may not fool anybody, but at this moment in time, as we can see in South Africa, rhetoric like that fucking works at the minute. So people are falling for that type of rhetoric. They're feeling that they're going to be fighting on the, I use this term from America's point of view, as well as the rest of the world's, the right side of history. And if you can,
because they're not falling for it, they're feeding into it. Common sense.
Exactly.
They're not falling for it. Carry on.
Exactly. I mean, it depends on your point. Some people are eating it up, and some people are falling for it. It depends on the ideology that you want to pick up.
Few are falling for it. Most of them are feeding into that, man. They're just part of it.
Yeah, they're feeding into the idea of everybody's a racist. Everybody's doing this because they're fighting fascism and whatever. And the thing is, people are not. The people are not doing it for sheer fascism's sake or sheer nationalism's sake anymore. Mm-hmm. Most people are quite happy having immigrants coming into their country. I know I am. I know most people are. But there has to be a point of return. There has to be a point of actually saying, hang on a minute, we're taking in too many. We've only got so much room, so to speak. It's like having a house with 4 bedrooms. If you add another 8 people, that means half of your resources are down cut. If you have another 4 to that, that means that your resources have now gone to a third, and so on, and so on, and so on. It's just not sustainable. It does not work.
Well, it does in the context if you can grow your economy. What the problem with it is right now, essentially, you only have one side of a debate going on. The left are saying, well, no, you're evil if you have that debate. And so the right are essentially the only ones stood on the stage in the theatre carrying out their part in their comedy show, music gig, whatever it might be. There's no counterpoint to it. So effectively, the only voices being heard at the moment, the only people can vote for to vote for some form of change are the right, because there are no left-wing parties who are willing to consider those options. Yep. So at the moment, the left is essentially standing back and waving the fascists in without realizing it.
Yeah.
Do you watch my channel often?
Quite often, yeah. I think I've watched about half your videos, not all of them, but about half of them.
Actually, since we've got Binary here, I want to just probe him on something, if you pardon me.
Oh no!
What does Binary Surfer actually believe that the politicians' motivation is for, uncontrolled immigration in terms of, I mean, obviously, you could say that the globalists themselves have their own agenda, but what do you think the politicians are in it for?
I think it's a mix of self-interest. For example, you could trace back things like the encouragement of large numbers of students to go to university to burying the unemployment stats, or taking a structural, 4.5% out of unemployment by pushing that chunk of traditionally unemployed young people trying to get the first job into a university setting. So you can usually trace self-interest back in these things. I think in the UK, it was a deliberate attempt to re-engineer the voter base. So if you look at first and second generation immigrants, they overwhelmingly vote left. Not all, but it's on the order of 80-something%, depending on what survey you believe. And then if you look at places like Europe, etc., I think there is it depends where you look in Europe. So Germany is unique, is an example, because they have a certain degree of guilt where they want to be seen to be virtue signaling much stronger than everyone else because of, 2 world wars, etc. How many refugees do you have to take to make up for 6 million people turned into air pollution? Well, I don't know, but apparently quite a lot. France, I think it's a different matter, where you have decades of failed integration going right back to the 50s, and then you're pouring more migration on top of it with an economy where essentially it's a Ponzi scheme. You have to keep it growing by whatever means, because if it stagnates for more than a few years, the whole thing collapses. Southern Europe's slightly different. I don't think Southern Europe is particularly where they're staying, though. Northern Europe, I don't know well enough to comment on places like Sweden, etc. I don't know what the motivation is. Germany, definitely guilt. France, definitely economics, and I would say a mix of self-interest and political gain in this country.
Well, I was just playing Binary Surfer Bingo in my head, and one word I was hoping you would say you did, which is Ponzi scheme. And that's exactly my thinking as well, which is the whole system at the moment, especially in the West, is based on ever expanding debt. And the only way you can ever get more increasing debt once the indigenous population are up to their eyeballs in it is to keep bringing more and more people in, because the ever increasing money expansion system can only work the more people you pile in. And like every Ponzi scheme, eventually it falls apart. And we had a taste of that 10 years ago.
Correct. But instead of taking the beating from that, instead of being caught short on your debts and taking the beating from the loan shark, so to speak, you decided the idea was to go to a bigger, nastier loan shark, take out more money, pile up an absolute mountain of debt that would take much longer to run down to the same inevitable conclusion, on the logic that, well, you're so far in debt, you may as well go for the guy who'll put two in your head rather than break your legs.
Yeah.
I think that's where we are economically. The next one, there is absolutely no way in hell they can do that round of bailouts again when you look at the debt levels now.
Well, I was talking to Common Sense about this before, because do you remember back in, I think it was 2011, when Cyprus's banks shut for a whole week?
Yes.
And when they reopened, 10% of everybody's savings have been confiscated. And it was it was basically a test that they were doing to see if they could effectively get away with it.
And
Correct.
they did, mostly.
Yeah. So, and if you actually look into the financial regulations, bail-ins, as they're now called, have been brought in quietly, because obviously they don't want people to know that at any time the banks can effectively now confiscate your part of your savings if they get into a economic situation again that requires it.
Yeah, your deposits are only protected up to a certain cap, which varies on country and account type and all the rest of it.
Yeah,
exactly. Yep. I think it's very interesting. Sorry, I was going to say, I think it's very interesting that obviously we're talking about bail-ins and bailouts at this moment in time, but we've forgotten that there's a country that didn't do anything like that whatsoever. And I believe it's Iceland. Yes.
Yeah.
I believe it's Iceland, where they actually just decided that they were going to close the banks. They were going to chase after the criminal bankers that caused all of this, put them into prison, restarted their banking system and their national debt and everything else of that. And so far, have a booming economy and is still growing to this day, as far as I remember.
Well, part of that is because the Wall Street
economy,
a lot of the Wall Street banks refuse to deal with them now.
Mm-hmm.
So look at them.
Man, what are you eating, dude? What are you eating, fat ass?
I'm eating a coffin sweet, so I don't.
Not you, Magic Bollocks.
Well, I'm just having a cake.
It sounded like cake. That's what I was guessing, because the way that it sounded like you were stuffing cake in your cake hole. That's exactly what it was.
Look, if the other half brings what's called me treats, I've got to get it down me log hole sometime, haven't I?
Now, look, I blame both y'all, but I've got it together. I'm looking at the package that I've got to send out to Mad Dodge, and Mrs. Ogre is supposed to come with something for each of you lads to fill out what we've already had here. But because we live a ways from town and things aren't planned out perfectly by either one of us very often, if ever, I mean, those things have been gotten into. I don't even want that shit sitting around. We have two boxes of Twinkies for you, Bollocks. Two boxes. Because
Beautiful.
here, I mean, a box of 10, I think it is, or 10 or 15, I don't remember. Quite a few.
Hell.
It's like, two quid. It's cheap, very cheap. You know, it's not like there where you actually pay a fortune for something that shouldn't cost that much. I guess that they don't have factories in the UK. So everything you're getting there is being, flown there probably, or shipped on a container ship.
I imagine most of it is, to be fair, from the European Union.
Well, sorry, Binary, I'm getting way off. I'm steering the boys off into fuckery, because that's what I like to do very often. Yeah, I don't know if there's much we can do. I think the EU is seeing what's happening, and they're kicking it into overdrive, and that, yes, it's going to be a hard Brexit. I still think back to the Cabbage Patch days, man, when Cabbage used to come here pretty often, and we were just bad influences on each other. But we when the Brexit happened, because we were gearing up. I mean, the vote was coming in. We were watching it every day. We'd get on, do little shit streams about it and stuff. boom, Brexit happened. I got so drunk. I got a hold of Cabbage the next day, and his response was, "I'm toes up right now, mate." That's all he said, and I didn't know quite what toes up meant. I guess that means near dead, very ill. Because and I was too. I was hungover. And now, well, the hangover's dissipated. The good feelings are gone. And still ain't no Brexit. So I believe that the powers that be, I said EU, but whatever they may be, they're gearing up. Populism is not kicking off. I know I heard you say that, Common Sense Guy, that someone said, populism. No, that's bullshit. It's kicking off everywhere. People want to be their own countries. They want to make their own decisions collectively as societies and as countries, not based on diversity, whatever the hell that means, or anything else. And I know someone else wants to speak. I heard somebody trying to kick it, so I'm going to leave off there. Something's going on. No one wants populism to be real, but it's real. It's going on off around the world like a fire in a tinderbox.
See, I've got a really, really weird theory when it comes to Brexit. To the point where I think the left, as they are at this moment in time, like Labour and the Liberal Democrats and so on and so forth, especially Sky, the fucking bias in Sky at the moment is something fucking believable. Anytime there's anything to talk about Brexit, they don't even have Tories on anymore to talk about it. It's, let's have this Labour person on to absolutely try and ridicule it, and it's just funny. But anyway, my point is that at this moment in time, I think Labour and the Lib Dems are going to try and decimate the idea of Brexit. Brexit is going to get pushed through to the point of the day beforehand. We're going to get a deal, and they're going to look at the deal and go, no, it's too fucking good. We're going to destroy the deal and not have it. And then we're going to have a hard Brexit, and they're going to think, fuck me, what did we do? I think they're going to get so lost in the left. I think they're going to get so lost in their ideology of stopping Brexit. Even if we get a good deal or a mediocre deal or whatever, they're still going to stop the deal. They're going to have a vote on it somehow because they're going to push that through. I'm sure they will. And they're going to absolutely destroy the deal in itself, and then we're going to leave on World Trade Organizations, and we're going to have a hard Brexit.
They're looking one step ahead without playing the full chess game.
Yes.
They're looking at the next move rather than where does it go. The game I play with some left-leaning friends of mine on Facebook, social media, when they come out with some of these daft fucking statements is, okay, play it through. Where does that go? Where does that go? Where does that go in turn? And you keep pushing into, okay, but what's the conclusion? What's the outcome? Okay, so you believe ideologically in being part of this thing. So what you're saying is, it's so bad to leave that you're willing to risk serious self-harm by essentially sabotaging the process of leaving to prevent the other form of self-harm. Run that by me again. How does that help anybody? Because they don't think in terms of layers. They think in terms of what immediately is the solution that makes me feel better or good in this context. It's all about feelings and first stage solutions, whereas the right is much more about the long-term solution, sometimes to the point where it doesn't have the empathy needed in the short term. Neither side is right or wrong, but at the moment it seems that the left is very much winning the post-vote debate.
Yeah. Although
it does seem like it.
If you talk to a lot of the ones who, are virulently supporting of the EU and whatever means that is, if you actually ask them questions about it, most of the time they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. Again, like you said, there is, for some reason, the EU have managed to get a tag of being a left-wing organization, although the way they actually run it, to me, is anything but what I consider to be left-wing. And I mean, my old man.
Depends on how far left you go.
Well, yeah, I suppose the idea of complete centralized power with no democracy, yeah. But I say someone like my old man is a good example. Is when I first discovered he was at the time voting to remain, and I tried to tackle him about it. It was incredible how he didn't really grasp the difference between such a thing as the EEC and the EU. He didn't understand what Maastricht was about. He didn't understand that the vast majority of employment law that's in EU constitution came from us first. He didn't understand things like the fact that, was it about 75 to 80% of the laws we've had imposed on us we objected to but were overruled. He just, to him,
87.6% for that one, by the way.
Oh, thank you very much, commentator. I should have known you'd know that. He just as far as he's concerned, is that Britain was a sick man of Europe in the 70s, and basically the EU saved us. It's like, you don't even know what the fuck happened in the 70s, and I wasn't even alive then, and I know more than you do.
Winter of discontent.
Yeah, which happened under his beloved Labour Party as well.
Sick man of Europe, man. That's very Chinese. That's very
it's bullshit.
Where did you get that though? Where did you get that expression? Because I do love it, but that's something that's very Oriental. I know I hate to use that term, but I don't know how else to say it.
The oil crisis of the early 70s basically put Britain and America in the financial shit. You know, we had like high levels of inflation and other various problems associated with. And that's why we had initial problems in the early 70s with like the 3-day week that Heath put us on, and then arrogantly signed us up to the EEC without a vote, and then decided, oh, I'm really popular, I'm going to the polls early and I'm going to win easily. And then funnily enough, he lost. And that's how we ended up with the then Labour government that gave us the winter of discontent and various other fuck-ups. But they did give us the first vote on EEC membership. Big difference back then was we only had the mainstream media to get our information from, and unsurprisingly, the vast majority of them at the time were very much in favour of staying in, so we did.
Yeah, but there was a slight difference with the ECC. It was just a trade bloc. There was no political gains to it. There was no political gains to it whatsoever. It was just a trade bloc. If you would have asked them, oh, we're going to give our sovereignty over from people that fought in the war and lived through the wars and that, they would have said no, they can fuck off. But that's just the way that it was portrayed at that point.
Oh, I agree. I quite agree. I just think that they always knew what it would become. It's just they weren't prepared to tell us at the time.
The best analogy I've seen for this, do you guys watch much of Daniel Hannan?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, he's very, very erudite, and he's probably one of the founding architects of Brexit. He was involved as far back as Farage, so 15 years back. Hannan has a great analogy for the vote, which was one of the ones that I stole unashamedly. Essentially, it's like waiting on a train at a station. You have two choices. You can get off the train, or you can stay on the train. Choosing to stay on the train does not mean you are staying stationary. The train will continue to move on its course. You are now stuck on that train. And that was the analogy for a lot of people with Brexit that I don't think they understood. People thought in terms of as if that train was going to stay stood at that station. The choice was whether you're on the platform looking at the train, on the train looking at the platform. No, the choice is whether you're on the train hurtling away to the next destination for the EU, or whether you're on the platform going, this is as far as I want to go on this particular journey.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
I completely agree.
Yeah. I think a lot of people you will now meet, the very hard Remainers, are always people who've got some kind of skin in the game. And it'll be someone like my boss who wants the status quo maintained until he retires, because he thinks that leaving the EU will affect his living standards. So he's just basically a selfish bastard. Or another work colleague who desperately wants house prices just to keep going up and up and up because his entire retirement is based on that. And he's worried that, again, rocking the boat could cause house prices to drop. And it's all anybody who is fervently wanting to remain are people who've got skin in the game in some form.
I would throw in, there's a third category in there that I see in some of my personal friends and contacts. People who have, how do I put it, some idea of sin or concept of guilt from their background that they want to atone for, particularly when it pertains to race, sex, refugees, and migrants, etc. There's something in there that they want to demonstrate they're really a good person after all, and they cling to it with the fury of a, to use a biblical analogy, of a sinner knowing judgment day is coming. There's no logic to it. There's just a desperate need to prove they're good.
Germans, then, basically.
Very much, very much like the Germans.
Yeah.
No, I'd say it's slightly different to that. I'd say it's not just the Germans. I'd say that it's more to do with the people that have been studying at universities for the last 15 years. Just everybody from the last 15 years that have been studying under the guise of feminism and the social justice and everything else like that that's being spewed all the time now. But even 15 years ago, it was still being talked about and it was still being pushed, so to speak. And I think the guise of feminism and that sort of stuff and left-leaning ideas and ideologies is pushed through to the point of going, you should look after other people. Yes, we should, but only if we can look after ourselves first. After all, charity is supposed to begin at home, not abroad. And yet we have homeless people and so many other things and blah, 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 that we just don't look after ourselves. So how can we look after anybody else from another country?
But you're taking a traditional right view there, which is, okay, we want to do this. Do we have the resources to do it? You're doing a two-step view, not a one-step view. The left does the one-step view. I want to do this, therefore going to do it.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. That's the reason why I think that it's not just a case of people that feel that they've got something to prove, but something that people have fallen into the ideological trap of actually thinking we need to do this because it's a good thing to do. Yes, it is a good thing to do, but only if you can look after the people that are coming in. Otherwise, all you're doing is damning yourself and another person. And I think that's where a lot of people...
very bad at looking at knock-on effects.
Yeah. I think that's where we're going wrong at the moment. But to take your point back to obviously Brexit when it was first happening and everything else like that, the moment when I knew that we were thinking about leaving was probably when I was about 14 or 15 years ago, when Tony Blair tried to change the currency from a pound to the euro, and basically England and the UK in itself basically told Tony Blair to fuck off. That's when you knew that people were not necessarily going to lie down and take Europe as it was anymore.
No, I disagree slightly. I think we could have remained in at that point. The problem was all the things that came after that, all the little additions, addition after addition after addition, slid in by the back door. If it had been put to an open vote, that would have completely disarmed the referendum campaign. You would have said, well, guys, you've had a chance to vote for the Conservatives who were going to accept these, and Labour who weren't, or yeah, whatever it was. There would have been chances to disarm this thing. Instead of letting off steam on these additional laws and additional reformations and additional budget contributions that were put in over the years, they let the head of steam build up till essentially it burst out in one go in the form of referendum.
Yeah.
No, I completely agree with you, but that's not the point I was making. The point I was making was I knew at that point that there was people that would be willing to leave the European Union. Not that we were going to leave or we had a strong chance, because as you said, people were just too up Europe's arse at that point, thinking that it's the best thing since sliced bread. But yet people still knew not to take the euro, the European currency. They knew to keep our sovereignty on the pound. So even then, in my mind, it was a case of people still wanted to remain sovereign and the idea of sovereignty, not the fact of integrating ourselves into Europe. That wasn't the point of that. As you quite already said, that wasn't what was going to happen at that point. But if it was a case of sovereignty, it would have happened.
Well, the thing is, common sense. I mean, the reason we never joined the euro was mainly because of the spat between Blair and Brown at the time. Blair obviously was very keen on us joining, but what Brown came up with were the 5 economic tests to see if going into the euro would be, financially viable, knowing damn well that the euro would never pass the 5 tests. He was using it as a rod to basically weaken Blair's position, because I suppose at the time he probably already knew that he was only going to stick around for another 3 years at the time. So because they never actually put it to the people. It was just Gordon Brown himself made the decision that we're not joining the euro, and he's as big a fucking Europhile as all of them. But if you actually go back, because there are vids on YouTube somewhere of the people at the time who were coming out and saying we must join the euro, it'll be, basically the UK will be in recession and what's going to have stagnant growth, even negative growth, and all these fucking things. Exactly the same shit that we were told during the referendum. So even back then, they were using Project Fear on a vote that wasn't even going to exist anyway. And funnily enough, all the predictions all turned out to be shit anyway.
As always,
it was essentially an infant federalized system. So if you take the EU 100 years down the line, pretend it works for a second, essentially what you have is the United States of Europe. For all intents and purposes, it'll have different names, different laws, but the functional is the same. You'll have regional electorate, regional elected officials governed over by centrally elected officials, which aren't elected by the individual states or member unions. That's essentially a federal system. The problem with that is you need a currency union and a monetary union. There are only really two speeds to being part of this. There is out, and there is in long term. They will have to make this thing work long term if they want it to survive, as assuming it can. I'm not convinced it can now, but assuming you want it to, you need full political integration, which means one central government setting the fiscal, the taxation, the spending, and the regional currency bloc's value, essentially. Because at the moment you've got these different aspects pulling in different directions, because there's nothing unifying it at the top and saying, essentially, take your lumps, Greece, we'll feed you some money from the German economy to prop you up, because it's not fully federalized. So we've done a half federalization, and that's what I mean by the train was going to continue going. That's where the train goes. It goes to fully federal town. That's one of the things that convinced me that voting out was the right thing, because I was on the fence for a long time.
That was the whole and complete and utter reason why I voted to leave, because I see that Europe in itself was basically turning into a dictatorship, or at best an authoritarian government. And it's just a case that you could see the processes that it was making to turn everything into a superstate.
Superstates don't have to be authoritarian or dictatorships, though. They can be liberal, like the US is. But you're right, it's managed like that at the moment. But the question for me was more, did you want to be part of a superstate or not?
That's what I was getting to. The fact that even if it was turning into a superstate, you could tell by the dictatorship of the people that are in charge, you will follow these rules. You don't even get to vote on them. And if you do, all we're going to do is just get other people to call your vote on them. So we're going to implement them anyway. I just knew that was the point that we needed to leave. For me, anyway.
I thought I was muted. Bollocks. If you wouldn't have laughed, I would have known I wasn't muted. So now I will mute myself so I can guzzle more beer. I love to guzzle beer. And this is, we're 2 beers left on this stream. So I'm going to go ahead and make a little more room and then guzzle this one. But yeah, we're going to have fun. My subject is off the table because we just did this and it's great. It was just as good as anything that I could have planned. So yeah, cap this off, boys, and let's have a bit of fun before we actually go back into serious mode and give our final words. I mean, we've got 40 minutes. Don't get me wrong, but the way this is going with Binary Surfer here, and now he's starting to rub you the wrong way. I can tell, Common Sense Guy. Before you know it, we'll have this big debate, and it'll be like this gigantic political thing. And well, I love that. I do enjoy that. And for all of you that tune in for that specific reason, hey, thanks. But we got to go on the other side too, because there's people that are here for the fart jokes.
Is it not for the Wednesday show?
Yeah, so that I think I give everybody a good breather to take a deep breath and think about what's been being said. So let's start with Binary, not final words, Binary, just what we've been talking about. Kick us off in another direction, same direction, put a finer point on anything that you've said, and we can get to the end of this discussion.
So do you want me to move you in another direction or close off?
Either way, if you, whatever, like we said, we're going to go about 10 more minutes on this. So it's, how about a combination of the two?
Okay. I would say in closing, it's screwed. It's the headless chicken at the moment running around, not realizing it's dead. It will die at this point, the EU. Just a question of when, in what form, etc. In my view, I don't see a way it survives in its current form. Looking in another direction for another topic. Here's an interesting one for you. Regulation of guns. We've talked about it before on the channel. You guys have talked about it before.
Oh, you completely misunderstood me, Binary Surfer. You completely misunderstood me. So yeah,
we need a fun subject.
Yeah,
we need a fun subject.
Yeah,
like, we're going
to segue from this, which you did a great job up until that whole fucking going on to gun thing. I mean, I could hear the air sucking into Common Sense asshole when you said he's like. We've been talking about this shit, and so look. One more time, we're gonna go and put a fine point on anything, which I thought you just did very nicely.
Okay,
and then we're fucking out of here. And if you want to steer it to something else, give us something fucking funny that me and Magic Bollocks can have a good time with.
The recent release of Kingdom Come Deliverance, the apparently racist video game set in 14th century Eastern Europe.
Bohemia. Yeah,
Yes.
set in Czechoslovakia, and
Yeah, which is known for its large black population, obviously.
I'm quite disappointed. I only learned about this by watching it on Razorfist channel. And I suddenly found out all this shit about this game supposedly being racist. And they were showing me I don't know if it was a tweet or from some game journalist who basically said that everyone must boycott this game, and if you don't, you're basically a fascist and all this. And unsurprisingly, it's gone to become one of the most fucking highest sales fucking games for about what's called 2 years.
Yeah.
getting used to the Death
in 2
Star,
weeks.
getting used to the 5-pointed Death Star of decision is going to be a little difficult for me, but I bought it. I will say this: I'm Jewish, and I've got a wife of 24 years, going on 25. We get along good because we manage everything, including our emotions, money, everything. And for me to just like, a game was released, Razorfist did a video. She loves Razorfist. She watches them at work. Oh, I didn't say that out loud. She watches them when she gets a chance. And $60. It was 60 quid. I mean, for me to just lay out 60 quid. I'll say this though, I am not disappointed. Don't boycott it. It's probably, and I'm only a day in. It's probably the best interactive game I've ever played.
Yeah, the game's been in fucking production for about 4 or 5 years, to the point where they redid it twice because they wanted it to be re-immersive, and they kept on adding graphics to it. The thing is with that game is that you can have a quest on, meet somebody, and if you take longer than a day or two to go and meet that person, you're not going to be able to meet him because that person's fucked off. The game is so in depth that it has its own fucking clock that everybody will be doing what they're supposed to do. If you have a peasant that's a farmer, that farmer will get up at 7, go off, feed the pigs.
Oh no, he's up
whatever.
at 5. I had to meet a farmer. That's why I know he's up early, and he's in bed at like 6:37.
Yeah, exactly. They have their fucking
It's
timing.
cool that way.
Yeah.
It's definitely
Yeah,
cool
it definitely is. It really is. To the point where you can become a monk and everything else like that. You can go off and do these things for the squire and everything else like that. It's a very, very, very interactive game. Very fucking good.
Now, can I just pick your boy's brains on this, because I haven't looked into it that much detail? Is the backlash about it just simply because there's no black people in it?
Yes.
That's it.
Well,
Yes.
I think it's probably okay. As I'm playing it, William starts out and he's just a nobody, and then the monks pick him to. As I'm starting out, you listen to the mythos that is building up around it as it's developing the game, and that could have been a little bit better, I think, especially the very beginning could have been a little. But I'm a nerd. A lot of people probably wish they would have just hurried up, or probably hit the A and don't even know what the hell it said. But it's all about. It's a male society. There's no women knights, as there wouldn't be.
Exactly.
All these things are very period. And for the people that like to say, I heard it mentioned it on the last conversation that we were having about this being on the right side of history. Are you fucking kidding me? You're on the right side of history in the moment. If you're in the majority, I guess. But that changes from moment to moment. There is no such thing as being on the right side of history, because what people agree one moment about something 100 years ago can change moment to moment. And I hope I'm not getting too in depth. Y'all tracking with me?
No, I'm with you, mate.
Yeah, so these things are too in flux to try to say anything about so what I see is an excellent game that has fat women and good-looking women, and you can't stay up. I tried it. You can't stay up all night trying to figure out how to pick people's pockets and then expect to fight people the next day. It won't let you do that either. It's very realistic in the fact that you're not going to have you're not going to have your dude just go. Now, it doesn't make you just sit there and like tweedledee tweedledum while it's asleep, but you do miss that part of the day. You know what I mean? So if you're out all night, you will miss from morning until. So as common sense. So, and look, I'm just bolstering up the game, because that's common sense said. If you have an appointment for somebody and you fuck up, they ain't gonna be there. They won't be there. So I think that's all ties into it. that it is the way things used to be, and the people that are today in vocal power and have manipulation of media and all these other things, they don't like it. There's
Well,
no black people. No, you know what else, boys? No Mexicans.
It's
They're definitely not no Mexicans.
Yeah, it's all the mainstream journalists who are having a paddy shit fit about it, and it all goes back nicely to good old what caused Gamergate in the end was the fact that you've got all these far left journalists who are willing to actually lie to the public about game quality if either the person who publishes it subscribes to their ideology or if they're fucking them as well.
Yeah. Well, that was amusing. Nathan Grayson was one of the people that was most vocally against it. And like, oh, really, Mr. Grayson? You developed a sense of morality now, have you? Is that?
But the thing is, there's been a couple of politically incorrect games I've noticed, especially on Steam popping up of late. The one that came out recently was, of course, Cuphead, that had a lot of fucking shit around it, but it turned out to be a brilliant game. There's also another one coming up that hasn't been released yet called The Last Night. And again, I think that's getting the same shit because of the fact that it's going to be effectively, a...
Boggs, listen. Buy this game. Go ahead and do it. You won't be disappointed.
It's a good game.
Well, admittedly, it doesn't look like the kind of game I would normally buy, but...
You got Cuphead? You bought Cuphead? You enjoy Cuphead?
I do, yeah.
Well, the reason I think that you would enjoy this one, Kingdom Come, more than is because I have beaten Postal in every way you can imagine. I've beat it on hard now. I've played the full game 3 times on easy, well, whatever it is, standard, hard, and then the alt, whatever. Beat it 3 times all the way through. And now I'm off to the whole, I've got the nuclear. And because of the way you move around, and you will love this game. You can choose.
It's completely tactical.
Yeah, and you can choose to do things. That might be another reason they don't like it. So far, I'm trying to rape a tavern wench, but it hasn't given me the option to outright like bend her over the table and give her the business right in front of everybody at the pub. But I think it may if I stick in there long enough and go down the path I'm going down. Because I'm not being a nice guy. I'm not a very nice guy. I stay up all night, carouse, pickpockets, drink, and I get up late, and they're like, so far every day, the guy that's teaching me to sword fight is like, late again, hey.
I've just got to interject quickly. I've just noticed on my my Facebook feed, there's the defining picture of Sargon's evening. If you check out his Facebook, you'll see it. It's brilliant. I would suggest putting it on the stream briefly.
Send me either screen shared or I don't have a Facebook. They wanted me to give them a picture ID and prove a bunch of shit, so I told them to fuck off. I don't. Yeah. But if you have something, I'll screen share and I'll
the
show
link. Maybe don't share directly because it links to mine. But
there you go.
The one thing I will say about all this, which is good, is that at least it seems the game industry is still prepared to do something that Hollywood isn't these days and do stuff that is politically incorrect. And look what happens. It's actually popular. It makes the money. Doesn't that sort of tell them something?
Also based as well.
Oh, yeah. Is it
Eastern Europe?
Eastern Europe, yeah. Or Czechoslovakia or something. Or Czech Republic, where the fuck
they call it Bohemia, but yes, it's Czechoslovakia. That's great. Carl, he's quite a guy, man. I've not everything that he's been through, and even the whole Richard Spencer thing. Not to get off on a completely different tangent, but we can the whole Richard Spencer thing. I mean, come on, man. The guy is he's a talking head on YouTube, folks. He is very intelligent. He does a lot of stuff on history. But when you boil it right down, he's a talking head on YouTube. Richard Spencer is an apologist. He is a professional apologist that didn't just wake up yesterday and decide to do this. She's been doing it for fucking 20 years. People also lose track of that. They know about the alt-right now, and they know about Richard Spencer now. And so they, of course, because we're human beings and we assume nothing happened before we knew about it, they assume that it did, but it's not the way it is. Richard Spencer's been around and doing what he does, and he goaded. I think that my beloved Sargon could have used a drink or two, man, that night. He was uptight about something. It was late at night for him and his time, and he was probably busy that day. And man, I did not like what happened. He took the bait. It made him look bad. Anyway, to make a long story short, I love the guy. He's a fucking hero of mine. He's great at what he does and something that I do here as a hobby, as you're witnessing now. But he's also, without just filleting him, doing some cyber fellatio here.
There'll be a meme later.
He's a champion. He is a champion, lads. He is. We all have to say it. He's a champion of free speech, a champion of freedom of expression. He's and all of these things. And I don't know if you boys did, but I'm going to find a link. That way I don't have to wonder if you just forgot about it. Then look, but you lads, Bollocks and Common Sense, my lads, I want you to check out that short story he wrote. So as we talk about this or whatever else a little bit more, I'm going to look that up because I want y'all to hear that. He's just a great guy.
He's very good at doing his history. I do love his stuff when he goes on about history. About cultures, the vampire fucking culture of Maui. Fucking hell. That was fucking amazing. But going back to the game and the idea of the games in itself, I do find that very, very fucking interesting that everybody is crying about a game that's set for period and then is going, well, no, that's not how it is, and we should have more black people in it. We should have women that are doing this and women that are doing that. Well, I'm sorry, if you wanted to be a woman, then you're going to probably have to be a wench or somebody who's sewing or whatever, because that was the time period, as Ogre quite rightly said. The game in itself, though, is an absolute fucking amazing game. Just the sheer graphics, the sheer gameplay. Don't get me wrong, the fighting is a bit clunky when you first start it because it's more tactical based. It's not a slasher. You just can't punch buttons and think that it's going to work. You're going to have to make sure that you actually think about what you're supposed to do as well. You can't just go, well, I'm going to hit this bloke on the head when he's parrying up to the top already. You're going to have to switch what you're doing all the time. You can't just keep doing the same thing over and over. The AI is very, very good on the game. And you can't take on like 5 or 10 people. You are just one man. You can probably take on 2, maybe 3 if you're good at the fucking game. That's about it. Don't think that you're God or something. Well,
oh my goodness.
Okay then.
Just pretend nothing happened. That was another.
I can't help it. It's there now. The tits are there.
Buttercup is. She asked for some memes and she got them. This is a great one too.
There you go, motherfuckers.
We can actually talk about this one. The other one though, I don't know. We can't talk about it. So far, I mean, I'd put up a lot worse shit than that. And if because we're all adults here, if no one, and I don't know, maybe it has nothing to do with making a big deal about it. I think it has a lot to do with it. I'm just a small fry. Yeah. On with the thing. So congratulations to Buttercup. You came on. You had a goal in mind, and that goal was to have some memes made, and you got them, girl. I think you'll get some better ones too, because I was thinking about taking this one with the big boots and like putting a strap on it. So you had it like a big schlong.
Ideally,
really non-binary.
Yeah, because ideally a multicolored one would be good.
Hey. You know what? I'm not sure that was funny. I like that one too, binary. That's a good one. I love that gift.
I have to say, have you ever noticed that everything is a rainbow themed meme with Ogre? He's always slightly on the gayer meme. Yes.
Whenever there's a meme that's got nothing to do with me. I don't make these memes.
I know you don't. I just mean in general, people are picking things up on you, mate.
I don't know.
He's been a lot of things of late. He's obviously, he's been he's come out as his place being a homosexual dungeon. He's tried to be a magician. And he's also been a suicide bomber.
Oh, you have to remember the good things. He's also been fucked by me. He's also been fucked by you.
That's what I'm so proud of. Is I managed to sneak you two right in the very end of my first episode. and it's literally a second flash of that image, and nobody's picked up on it. It's brilliant.
No, sneak us in the very end. I'm still hung up on that, mate. The phrase "I managed to sneak you lads in the end." You know, we don't want to get snuck in.
It does have a double meaning.
Sounds very much like some kind of priest, something a priest would do to an altar boy. You know, a bit of buggery. Now, and then you know what? I believe there's two things about memes, especially the ones that are less than flattering. And I think most importantly, they're funny. They're very funny. And B, I don't care who you are, when somebody like Moe's, when they superimpose a giant, like 14-inch long black penis in your hands and like in your face coming on you, well, you have to have a certain amount of, you have to be able to put your pride on the shelf and to have a certain amount of humility. It's good for that to be able to accept that, yes, this is funny. So anyway, yeah, keep it up. Keep the good memes coming. We love them here. I was once accused of getting someone tossed off of Twitter because of a Pepe meme.
Sorry.
What?
Yeah.
I mean, I would expect you were doing quite a lot, but I wouldn't expect you ever to get anybody kicked off of anything for anything.
No. Yeah. And that's the funny thing. That was my point to these people. I shouldn't even have really brung it up. You'd have to really been following for a long time. And for those of you that have and know what I'm talking about, we don't have to make it a bunch of drama. But yeah, that's when I pointed out common sense. At the moment, I was like, really? Y'all are going to accuse me of that when everybody that knows me knows that can't be right. When you have all of these things about me that's true, and I won't even try to deny.
Yeah. I've got quite a lot of problems. So some of them might be psychological. I'm not 100% sure, but you're going to tell me that I'm doing stuff that I would never do, and you're going to go with that instead? Be my guest. I'm going to fuck you up.
Be my guest. Be my guest. Put our hospitality to the test. Anyway. Yeah, and I don't know. I got a little bit more left in me, boys. I got I've got a beer and this much of a doobie left in me. And then I'm not even gonna lie. When I get done today, I don't have to. I'm gonna run off and like just sit back here, probably play Kingdom Come a little bit more, and chill. Maybe I've got to check the fire later tonight. But finally, man, holy crap! The only day I've had off in the last 3 weeks was every Saturday. I don't work on Saturday. The rest of the days, it's just been morning to night, going and going. Not terribly hard work all the time, but fucking off and standing there and doing shit. It's getting old, and I'm gonna have some me time. So what's up, Binary? You've been hanging in here with us so long. I'm not, and yeah, I'm gonna pick the last thing. And it's why, I don't know, abruptly stop. And then this will take enough time. We're going to have a final word. I hope that you're here with us for that. I don't expect you to run off. If you do, you'll be labeled a pussy here. So just
bitch.
stick around. You know how it works. You've been around long enough. But the last thing I'd like to mention is, on an individual level, forget that you work for MI6, Binary Surfer, forget everybody, forget what they are and what, just on a personal level, on an individual level, what is your freedom worth? Should you be trusted with a machine gun or a Glock 17 or anything like that? What's your freedom worth? Should you be required to, or do you think it's all right for you to sacrifice all of these liberties for some kind of ambiguous security?
Yes. The argument doesn't stack up anymore. And I'll explain what I mean by that. If you had a point where everyone had a musket or a semi-automatic rifle or even an automatic rifle, it kind of makes sense that you can have an armed population rising up and stopping the government. But at the point your government has planes, drones, tanks, robots, cruise missiles, just generally has a level of technological superiority far above yours, you're bringing guns to a drone fight. It ain't going to work. So on a practical note, I don't think it works anymore. Does that mean you should abandon it? Don't know. not my call to make. My country doesn't have that set of laws. But I would argue that your First Amendment is vital, but your Second Amendment is horribly outdated. Fine.
Hey man, have you ever heard of a country? Hey, before I let you go on a diatribe on my channel with this drivel that is absolutely cuckish nonsense from a left field that I can't even fathom, this kind of giving up your freedoms because you absolutely have no spine or because you worship the government.
Oh dear, I knew this was going to happen.
Let me ask you this. Have you ever heard of a country called Eritrea? Eritrea, I believe some people pronounce it that way. They're right above Ethiopia. Have you ever heard of that country, sir?
Eritrea, yeah, I know.
Oh, you've heard of those. So do you know what happened when they started, when they had a war with Ethiopia that was backed by the United States? They had F-16s and Eritrea, they had no, and I'm saying it the way that my friends that are from there say it, so I don't know. I'm probably mangling it in your mind, but they had nothing. They didn't even have an AK-47. The first soldier they took an AK-47 off of, they stoned, and they got his weapon. Then they got a F-16, stole it. It was something we gave them. And this is, I'm not making this up, Binary Surfer. So what I'm trying to tell you is what you're saying is defeatist and insane. The idea that you can't, there was nothing that could be done. That's why they want to take, that's why they want a registry. That's why they want that to happen. That's why they want everyone to say every shotgun, every pistol, every weapon that they have, you can't sell one to your best friend unless you have a background check. And the only way you can do that is if you have a national registry. Well, we know what happens when you have that, like Emperor Mao did. And like I could go on because I didn't want to go to Hitler, but Hitler did the same thing. And so you sound, I mean, that sounds very much like someone like Mao or Hitler would say, you got no chance anyway. So give up your right to bear arms. Give it up.
Yeah, you can do reductio ad absurdum on the argument if you want, but
reductum ad absurdum. What, you think I don't speak Latin? Man, listen, you can be a pompous prick if you want.
I hope you speak Latin.
You can think that you're much smarter than you really are if you want. But the fact of the matter is, there's no way.
Hey, come on.
You're a spokesman.
Wait a second, Ogre. Wait a second.
If you have an agenda and you work for a government, well, then say who you work for. If not, explain to me why you would give your rights up to a government in this day and age. Well, you already said, I mean, and leave off the technological advancements and that stuff. We've got that. And please stick to English because most people don't.
Very simple terms. The reason the crossbow was hated by the church going back 3 centuries was a longbow took years to train a peasant to use. A crossbow, they could be proficient in a day or two. They can be taught how to use a crossbow to basically on a day or two. It's the same with a firearm. You can teach someone how to be proficient with a firearm in a very short space of time, comparatively. If you're talking fighter jets, drones, tanks, that is a whole different kettle of fish. So in real life, I hold a civilian, or held, I should say, it's not valid anymore, a civilian private pilot's license at one point. And believe me, that is a couple of 100 hours to have gotten. It is not easy to have gotten to the point where you can fly an aircraft competently and not hit the ground. You're bringing guns to a drone fight, mate. I understand the principle and being willing to die for it. My point is that is all you're going to accomplish. You can die for your principles, but if you choose to go up against your government at its current state of technological advancement versus you guys just having guns, believe me, it ends one way. There isn't a second outcome.
Yeah, it ends with the government probably losing because what you're failing.
Can I just stick in a bit?
Yeah, hang on 1 second. What you can in just 1 second. What you're failing to, I think, see is that I could give a few more examples, but I'll stick with Eritrea. You're not only relying on someone finding a plane and they know how to fly it. You do have people that would infiltrate. You do have, in case of the United States. If it ever came down to the United States then doing what you're talking about, going and taking, why do you think they stood down against the I'm going to forget their name, the people out there out west, the FBI and everybody's there, give the guns. They kept going with their horses. They went away because there were cameras there. If the FBI agents had opened up and killed the Bundys, Clive and Bundy, and those who I was trying to think of, if they would have opened up and killed those people and the ones around, everyone would have seen it, mate. And I think what you're forgetting is that our army is made up of Americans, at least now. And if they were to firebomb a bunch of people, if they were to do some of these things, you're talking about then you not only have every individual American within reason because we have enough to arm them with a firearm, which is very effective. I'd rather have one than not. But you also have a lot of these other things that you're talking about, drones, I'm sure. I mean, there would be a split. I don't want any of these things to happen. But when we're talking, I don't know. And go ahead, common sense. But I think this is the biggest rift is that it's not myself and my, I've got to have my gun, which I do. I mean, I've grown up with them. I have weapons now. They all have a function. What you're talking about when you say that we need to accept it, it wouldn't matter is yes, I want to be able to protect myself against not only the government, that is the biggest thing, but against the thief in the night, against the coyote.
And I think, Ogre, that's where we agree and we disagree. I get the self-defense argument. I totally get that, and I agree with that. What I think is the delusional part is that if a government decided to crush a section of the population that was standing against it, you could...
You are English, aren't you? Because that's what they said. Put your weapons down, you bloody rebels. And the war machine that was Great Britain had no idea that a few grab-astic, unorganized farmers with long rifles would take the fight to them and kick
matching technology levels. There's not matching technology anymore.
Right, can I just take this conversation to a completely different level, please? Because I think we're missing the main actual fucking point on this bit. There is over 300 and something billion, isn't it? Billion Americans. So yeah, 360 million Americans. Yeah, 360 million Americans. Do you honestly think, and this is a defense of Ogre more than anything, not because I completely agree with Ogre, but because it's a logical argument?
Nobody agrees with me. I'm fucking crazy, but carry on.
But the logical argument is, do you honestly feel that with over 200 and something million guns in America at this moment in time, do you think that at least 200 million people, Americans, would fight the tyranny of their government? Do you honestly think that they wouldn't do that? And the reason why I say that is because if you've only got people that are going against the government, all you got to do is take the Senate. All you got to do is take the White House. You've got 200 and something million people that are willing to do that. Fuck me, the war would be over in a day.
Thank you. Because they're not thinking common sense that our whole binary surfer, I love you, man. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but I want everybody to know it's in good fun. It's not good fun, but it's all should be fair. I respect, but I also know that you must work or have worked for a government agency. You have taken oaths. You have done these things. You do believe that because the boys that are next to you and the lads that you know that are close in your circle are upright and upstanding, that everyone is, and that's just not the way it is, man. It really is not the way it is.
I've not worked for one.
I know. I'm sure you'd say that. I'm going to assume that you did, no matter what you say. So, and with respect, and so here we go. And so, what you have to remember, our army has 1 million people in it. Our Navy has something like 560,000. All of our armed forces have less than 6 million people in them. And as Common Sense Guy just said, it would be nothing if something kicked off. There would be 100 million American men. I'm thinking that's on the low side because you'd have. I mean, let's not.
All right, and tell you what, let's play hypothetical because I'm running out of time on this end. But let's play hypothetical for a second. Let's pretend that your argument's right and that you still have enough people with guns to stack up to the technology level on the other side. Fine, okay, let's concede that. At what point, bearing in mind that you will not be allowed access to this more advanced military technology as it comes out, for example, Google's swords at the moment, the Talon robot, the swords, they're real unclassified robots. You can look them up. They're made by defense contractors now. They're proof against pretty much any small arms fire. They're now being rolled out. Yeah. At what point does the technology level advance to the point you go, okay, guns aren't going to cut it?
Lord, that's why we should rise up now and take over and reset this stuff, because the idea that the government as it stands in this country, and I know what you're talking about, Surfer, I've seen them. They make the dog thing, they make that black dog running thing look very benign. And when I first saw that, I was a little terrified. It's all the more reason that we should stop this put it completely out of the government's hands and in private hands. And look, I don't know, man. It's over. At that point, it probably is. And then it's Skynet, though. I think their own shit will bite them in the ass. And I'll stop at that. I've been going a long time. Thank you, too, Surfer, for a very game conversation. You're too fucking calm. And it didn't work with me. I still won that because I win.
No problem.
Very, very well. Very game debate, too, sir. Thank you.
I would just like to add to this quickly before everybody fucks off, so to speak. The point that you're talking about with the technology advances, you have to remember that guns are going to technology advance at the same time. Just because there's going to be robots that are put onto the ground and drones and things like that, you have to remember that there are such things as commandeering the technology. There's going to be people out of the 200 million people that will be fine with you that are going to know some of the services. There's going to be some people from the government that are going to switch. There's going to be some people from the people that make the robots that are going to switch and know how to do it. That's how rebels and terrorists and things like that get their points and be able to get their way in through and everything else like that. So it would be a case of, yeah, fair enough, to begin with, there would be a lot of people that would die. But at the same time, there would be a point where it would switch, where the armies would be almost even. Because that's what happens in armies. They take and they commandeer the other people's technology.
That's what happens. That's why I brought up Eritrea, but Eritrea, however you want to say it. I know there's 50 different ways I always say Eritrea. Anyway, look, that's the end of that. It's the end of all this because I appreciate everybody coming in. I haven't heard from Bollocks in a while because I think we got way too serious. He's back there. He's got cake. Yeah, he's eating another cake. He's got bloody cake. I was going to advise him to get a shot at Jack Daniels and have one last drink with me. I'm not sure if it's fair to say I'm having a drink with him if I'm drinking Coors piss water beer with Jack Daniels, but whatever. Yeah, thanks again to everyone. I'm going to have my last word here in a minute. Going to have nothing to do with guns. Sorry to disappoint everyone, or probably patriotism, but man, what a great show. What a great day. I'm going to continue to fight on and fight forward and continue to do this with my bros. And we got lucky today, I think, boys. We can all say that because Prankster Locks, who we expected, we got Binary Surfer, and he's no slouch, man. He makes a good guest. He's an intelligent gentleman, and it was a fun time. So, Surfer, before you got to go, unless one of my mates got something to say before you do, they wanted something about whatever. I can't imagine what it would be, but they may have something. I'd like to give you a chance to have your last word. When he's done, though, have your last word before we lose you, Surfer. Yeah,
I'd just like to second Ogre's point. Thank you very much for coming on. Thank you very much for having a chat with us. Thank you very much for having a debate with us, so to speak, and knowing that it's all in good fun and all in good faith. So thank you very much for coming on, mate.
No, thank you for having me. And yeah, I enjoy a good debate. There's no point taking these things personally ever. You argue the point, not the man, don't you? You go for the ball, not the man, so to speak, to use the football analogy. But
some people do.
Yes, some people do, but I'm convinced that's usually in the absence of a solid argument where I see people do that. So I think it's an easy fallback to buy time while you're trying to frantically think of an argument to attack the man. But anyway, coming back to my sort of last word, I guess it was something I wanted to mention from earlier that Ogre touched upon with YouTubers and channels and what people find interesting and compelling viewing. And it's making mistakes, actually, I find the most interesting thing. To draw on an example Ogre made earlier with Sargon and Spencer, where Sargon turned around and said, yeah, you know what, I fucked up in that debate. I didn't do as well as I could have done. I made a tactical error, I got annoyed, all the rest of it. I think that's what's most interesting, is listening to people evolve their views based on mistakes, screw-ups, new information, etc. And that's one of the reasons I find the channel a bit interesting, because you can see the occasional thing where Ogre will change his view, or you'll change your view on something, and you hear the back and forth. And it's nice to hear an exchange of views where people aren't, for the most part, very deeply invested in their views, where they're actually willing to have them changed. And that's the most interesting thing to listen to for me, where you hear the back and forth of the idea and the, well, I disagree, I kind of agree, I see where you're coming from on that sort of thing, rather than rigid ideological positions trying to defeat each other. That's me done.
Yeah.
Damn, thank you so much for saying that. And don't feel you got to hang around to the bitter end, Binary. If you've got something to do what you got to do. Thank you so much, sir. That was.
Thank you. I will have to dash before I get in trouble with the missus, so I will see you all again. Thank you.
Very kind.
See you later, mate.
Yeah. Goodbye, Mr. Bond.
And I don't want to ruin all the last words, but what a great thing. He's a good fella.
Yeah.
He really is.
Definitely. If you don't mind, Bollocks, I wouldn't mind. Go phone's going to die very, very soon, so I want to get my last word out of the way.
Yeah, help yourself, mate.
To be honest, I don't really have too much to say. There's nothing really important, but again, we had somebody who was supposed to be on. They're not going to mention names or anything else because I'm not that type of person. It doesn't really bother me. Life gets in the way sometimes. But we were supposed to have somebody on. Binary Surfer stepped in, and we've had quite a good debate, quite a good game debate, talking about lots of different subjects. Very intelligent guy, and I'm just happy that we can actually do stuff like this at this moment in time. We touched on the fact of the censorship and things like that, and it's just a case of at this moment in time, I'm so happy that we are not any big channel. We don't have any sort of massive people that follow us or anything else like that at the minute, and I think that's absolutely amazing because we're able to do these type of debates. We're able to talk about whatever the fuck we want to talk about. We're able to swear if we want to, as long as it's not over the top, whatever.
Here.
We're allowed to do what we want.
Here.
And that's the best thing. And to have people on like Binary Surfer that are one of our fans, so to speak, or subs, whatever word you want to use, don't really know what word to use, but one of them will surely suffice. And you have one of the people that watch us on a quite a regular basis come up, able to hold their own against talking to us. And not because I didn't think he wouldn't be able to do that. We've had him on before. He's an intelligent guy. I knew he would be able to, so I wanted him on. And I think that's absolutely amazing. And I think more YouTubers and people like that should have people that follow them and watch them onto their shows to talk about different points and challenge them on different ideas. I think that's the absolute amazing thing about the internet, the actual point of how connected we really are. And I'm going to leave that there.
Cheers, man. Good. If you're ready, Bollocks.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just trying to actually think of something to say because these boys have pretty much summed up everything I could have said tonight. We had a interesting debate tonight because of the fact that we were sort of riffing it a bit since we didn't get the guest we thought we were going to get. So isn't it amazing how sometimes if you're just dropped in it, how your mind can just come up with interesting things to talk about, interesting topics, and you can find yourself thinking about things you weren't necessarily thinking about. And also, I don't know if this is necessarily binary thinking, but what subjects can I talk about that's going to trigger Mr. Ogre? And in that case, he did very well tonight. And it is nice that we do have these sort of debates sometimes. I mean, as you all know, I'm more the non-serious one of the three, and I can very much talk absolute crap for ages if need be, as Princess Buttercup will back me up on. But it is nice sometimes to talk about the serious stuff as well, because there are a lot of things that are of concern to us all, and it is nice to be able to talk with reasonably like-minded people. You know, you might not agree with completely, but they're not going to rip your head off for having an opinion that's not the same as theirs. As much as I would very much like to have somebody on who is, you know, a bit more to the left than us boys, you just know more than likely they would refuse to do it because they know that they'd probably end up looking a complete arse because their arguments won't hold up scrutiny. And that's why I do not subscribe to ideology at all. Ideology is poisonous. Ideology is one of the most closed mind things you can do because you're subscribed to a set of rules and thou shalt not deviate. It's almost like a new form of religion where these are your new 10 commandments and you shall not deviate from them. It's bollocks. Machines follow instructions without compromise, and we're not machines, or at least not yet anyway, as Mr. Quinn would say. But yeah, so long as we remain free-thinking individuals, it's a good thing, and long may it continue. And that's why institutions like the EU and other constitutions around the world that are trying to do various things that the populace are not happy about, take guns, will probably not succeed. Because so long as people are able to voice their opinions and say we're not putting up with this shit, I think good things will prevail, hopefully. So I've chinned everybody up there a little bit, and may I raise a glass to my fellow panelists, always as insightful as always. Mr. Ogre is, of course, the perfect host, and to all the morons in the chat. You always make me laugh with the absolute drivel you come out with, and please do come back on a Wednesday and a Friday because we love you all. And that's all from me.
Oh, man, what a good day it's been. And looks like we're going to end at least on time, probably ahead of time. I'm not going to talk for 23 minutes. I have a place in this, what are we going to call it? In this cybersphere. In this cybersphere. I have a place, and I know what it is. I sometimes am fiery and portray certain emotions and get things going in one way, sometimes calm things down, at least when I'm on my game. I mean, there's times, hell, last Friday, I wasn't doing shit. I was just there, and I croaked once in a while because I wasn't on my game. I wasn't able to do my job, as it were. What is my job? Well, the Heyoka. And I know I'm not saying that as the natives would say it. It's the Heyoka. This was a sacred medicine man of the Lakota, the horse people of the plains here in the United States of America. They were all over the North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota. In fact, they were in northern Michigan, what we call the Upper Peninsula. Now they were nomadic people that followed the buffalo. And they got horses from the Spaniards that came to the United States, what we call the United States now, many moons ago. I want to say it was in the 15 or 1600s, 1492, Columbus. So it was somewhere. It was very early on, and I'm not going to get that right when it was they brought the horses here, but it was early on. And these very brave men of the Lakota tribes, they tamed the horses somewhat. They didn't want them too tamed, and they used them to hunt, to fight. And they had this specific medicine man, the Heyoka. He was someone that was there to help you deal with things in what we would consider to be a very unconventional way. If your father died in the buffalo hunt and you were there, a very young brave, 8 years old, very young brave, seen very few winters, were weeping there, he would see you from afar and he'd creep up behind, and before you knew it, you're there in your own emotion, weeping and crying. Boom, there would be the Heyoka with tears already in his eyes. As hard as you were crying, he would cry harder. He would cry and wring his hands and and lament. And of course, everyone here knows what that would do. And before you know it, the person would be laughing. And of course, the Heyoka would laugh with them. They would reflect the emotion that was in the person at any given time to the 10th power. And so if you see if you're following with me, if someone is sad, they're very sad, and that helps. If someone's overjoyed and going too crazy off the other end, they're too crazy and it brings them down. That's what I'm here to do. That's what not Common Sense Guy, not Magic Bollocks. They have their own missions. They have their own thing they do. It's obvious we do our own things on our own channels, and we all get together and do them on those said channels, the three of us. So there's a different agenda. There's a different, look, I don't want to get all, I just yelled at Binary Surfer about using big words, so I'm not going to try to go Latin. I was just about ready to, and I just realized I cussed him for using Latin because I wanted to be a dick. We all have our own thing that we try to do. We all have our own emotions. I was going to say something else, but I'll say this. We all emote, and that's a word we should all know. We all emote in our own ways. So obviously, this is something that I love very much. I could go on for quite a distance now, but I too want to chill. We go play Kingdom Come, and I tell you, man, it's a great game. want to go have a little me time, drink about 4 or 5 more beers, and totter off to bed. And when I wake up tomorrow, I don't want to really remember how I got to bed. You know, I'll know I walked there, but I want to wake up going, what a great night's sleep. And however I got to bed was fine, but I don't recall it. So that's my goal today, because I want to be that Hyoka. I've been so many other things in my life, businessman, preacher, and preacher was always tough. I think that many preachers could learn a lesson from this. To be in the moment, to be able to understand and reflect emotion, and hopefully use that to your intellectual, your spiritual, and your social benefit. So you know what, man? You know what I'm going to say, folks. Doesn't matter if you remember any of this shit. What a load of shit I just spewed, man. You should have been paying attention to Bollocks or Common Sense Guy, or, you know, Heaven Help Us, Binary Surfer. You know, give up your guns, bow down, lick the boots of your oppressors, that kind of thing. Fall in line and be a good Nazi, that kind of stuff. It doesn't matter. None of it matters. You know what does? Be good to your friends. Be good to your family members. Be good to your loved ones. Be quick to say you're sorry. Be even quicker to accept an apology, especially when that thing your friend, your family member, your loved one has done seems to be so huge you'll never be able to forget about it. Because constant viewers, Binary Surfer, my brothers, at a time you think not, your friends, your family members, your loved ones, your life, and MI6 will depart from you.